The oak tree in the center of Fenwood was more than just a tree. My mother always said its roots reached the heart of the earth, while my father called it the backbone of the village. I never really understood what they meant until much later, after everything that happened. Planted by the first settlers on the Spirit's instructions, the oak was a promise between our people and the land. Every year during the harvest festival, we'd gather under its shade, singing and dancing, honoring the spirits who'd given us their blessings. It symbolized life and balance, a constant in our quiet, steady world. The woods beyond the brook, though, were something else entirely. We'd all heard the warnings, "Don't cross the brook." The elders didn't explain why, but their silence left room for stories, dark ones. Shadows that lingered too long, animals that vanished, whispers that weren't the wind. Of course, Ina didn't care about warnings. They say there was a time before villages, before kings, when the world was ruled by the whispering ones. Spirits, my mother called them, born from the earth's essence. They weren't human, and they weren't gods. They were something in between. The whispering ones existed to keep balance, life and death, growth and decay, beginnings and endings. But like all things, they changed. Some of them craved more. They whispered too loudly, bending mortal wills, sowing chaos. The others, the balance keepers, fought back. They created a stone, etched with runes and magic, to trap the rogue spirits. When the rogue whispering ones were bound, their power was sealed into the stone, but their fury made the artifact unstable. To weaken it, the balance keepers shattered the stone into fragments and hid them across the land. One of those fragments lay beneath Fenwood, buried deep and forgotten, until now. The brook had always been there, flowing cold and quiet through the woods. We didn't cross it, not even to chase a stray goat or collect herbs, except that day. Ina, her sister Mara, and I had gone to the woods looking for mushrooms. That's what we told everyone, anyway. But Ina wanted to cross the brook, to explore the forbidden side. She was fearless in a way that made me uneasy. She didn't hesitate when she jumped across the water. Mara followed her, but I lingered on the edge. Something about the air felt wrong. That's when we found it, or rather Ina did. The stone wasn't much to look at, just a chunk of black rock with strange markings. But the moment Ina touched it, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The shadows grew darker, the air colder. I swear I heard whispers, soft, urgent, and angry. We should have left it there, we didn't. It wasn't long before the whispers spread. It started with unease, villagers complaining of bad dreams and feeling watched. Then old Jacob died. Everyone thought it was the spirits doing, and they were right. What no one knew was that Jacob had crossed the brook as a boy, defiling the sacred ground where the stone was buried. His death was their punishment. 3 days after Jacob's death, Cale came back to Fenwood. Cale wasn't a stranger exactly. He'd passed through Fenwood years ago, helping people with strange ailments and mysteries no one else could solve. My mother always spoke of him with a mix of admiration and unease, and when Mara couldn't conceive, it was Cale who gave her the vial that led to Ina's birth. When Cale returned, it wasn't by chance. He'd heard the whispers, or maybe he just knew. He took one look at Ina and the stone she carried and frowned. "This shouldn't have been found," he said. As the days passed, the whispers turned into voices. Shadows moved where they shouldn't, and the brook ran colder than winter frost. Fires wouldn't light, animals fled, and the oak tree's leaves turned brittle and brown. Cale explained that the stone wasn't just a fragment, it was a prison. "The spirits inside aren't evil," he said, "but they're angry and they want to be free. If they get their way, they'll tear this village apart." Ina, stubborn as always, refused to believe she couldn't fix it. "It's my fault," she said. "I have to put it right." Cale and Mara devised a plan to take the stone back to the brook and perform a binding ritual to silence the spirits again. On the night of the ritual, Ina, Cale, and Mara carried the stone to the brook. I went with them, even though they told me to stay behind. I couldn't let Ina face it alone. The spirits fought back. Winds tore through the trees, voices rose in anger, and shadows circled us, cold and suffocating. Cale drew runes in the dirt, his voice steady as he chanted the words of the ritual. Ina and Mara joined him, their voices rising above the chaos. Then Cale stopped. "To bind them fully," he said, Someone must become the conduit. What does that mean? Mara asked, her voice trembling. It means part of their soul will stay with the stone, Kale said. Forever. Ina didn't hesitate. I'll do it, she said. No, Mara stepped forward. You're too young. This is my burden. Before anyone could stop her, Mara took the stone and began the final chant. The spirits screamed as they were drawn back into their prison. Mara's body shook, and for a moment, I thought we'd lost her. When it was over, the stone lay cold and silent in her hands. But Mara was changed. Her eyes, once so warm, now held a distant, haunted look. 2 weeks later. Life in Fenwood went back to its quiet rhythm, but nothing felt the same. The oak tree was green again, the brook flowed normally, and the whispers were gone. But Aina had changed. She grew quieter, more distant. One day, as we sat by the river, she turned to me. I have to leave, she said. Why? I asked, my voice catching. She didn't answer, just stared at the water, her thoughts somewhere far away. And then she was gone. I think about her often, about the oak tree and the brook, about the things we lost and the things we saved. Ina was more than a friend. She was the heart of Fenwood, the thread that tied us all together. The village still stands, the oak tree still thrives, and the brook flows as it always has. But for me, the whispers will never truly fade, because Ina left behind more than memories. She left behind hope. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories. Hit the bell so you never miss out. See you next time.